So there's a lot of information here, so I have made some notes. So the first thing, yeah, you have to just excuse me, I'm working off my phone. So the first thing I just want to tell you is exactly what you're going to learn in the video. So I want to tell you exactly what equipment you'll need, because there's so many different things to choose that it's hard to know what you need. You don't really need that much. So I want to simplify this, just tell you exactly what you need. How to choose your first pipe. Again, this is a minefield and it's hard to know where to start with that because there's so much different choice, so many different opinions. So I want to just give some ideas on that. Your first tobacco as well. This is quite, I do think I've got some good insight on this. How to load your pipe. Again, so many different videos on it, and I'm definitely not an expert, but I can show you what I've learned and how I found a much easier way to kind of do the process of loading, not packing. I'm going to say something controversial, but I think packing is a dangerous word for a beginner pipe smoker because you think you got to pack it. Anyway, we'll get to that. And how to actually smoke as well. So I'll go through a few ideas on that as well. So that's what we're going to learn. So let's get into it. Firstly, I just want to give you a quick overview of the absolute necessities which you're going to need. Many things in the pipe smoking world, there's sort of things you like to have, things that can improve your life, but these are the things that you can't really live without, probably going in list of importance from left to right. You're obviously going to need a pipe, that goes without saying. You're going to need a lighter, you're going to need tobacco, you're going to need, and I mean, these things you don't have to have, but you really do need them because keeping your pipe clean, it's going to be difficult without pipe cleaners, and you're going to start running into some issues. And a little tamp tool, again, you're going to need it. So we're going to sort of expand on every one of these, but I just wanted to first give you a quick overview of the basic necessities of what you're going to need. Now we're going to get into some fun stuff. First of all, the pipe. This is where it gets really complicated, and you're going to start spending hours probably over analysing which pipe to buy, what make to get, which model within that make. There's so much to go over, but what I would say is, and this is what I did, the very first pipe I bought was actually this. This is just a cheap Peterson's, which I got on eBay for about £42. I think it's £45 delivered, and this is a fantastic place to start. I mean, it doesn't have to be this pipe, but I think eBay getting a what you call an estate pipe, which basically just means a pipe which has been pre-owned, second-hand, is a really great place to start. The reason being, you can get fantastic value. I mean, to buy this new would have cost more, and also you don't have to worry about your very first time that you smoke if you're going to damage it or something like that. You don't have to worry so much about what's going to happen to it. So I would just find something which you think you like the look of, that you think would be easy to smoke, and go with that. Don't overthink it too much. I think an estate pipe is a really great place to start. The second pipe I bought, actually I bought them at the same time, but was this corncob. The reason I got this is because when I bought some tins of tobacco, I saw these and I'd heard people recommending them, and it was so cheap. This was like £7 that I thought, well, what can go wrong? For £7, I'll just get one and see what happens. But actually, for a first pipe to smoke with, these are really fantastic because they have a small chamber, they're quite easy to keep alight, and again, it's so cheap that it doesn't really matter what you do to it. I mean, if you destroy it on your first go and somehow manage to catch the whole thing alight, which is not likely, but who knows, you could just throw it away and buy a new one. They're so cheap. The other thing is that you can put a little filter in this, a bolster wood filter, which works quite well. And you also don't have to worry too much about something called ghosting, where you get a taste from the tobacco and things like that. So I'd say a corn cob is a really great place to start. If you got a little bit more money and you just want to, you feel confident that you're going to keep doing this and you just want to get into it straight away, you could spend a bit more and buy something a bit better. I mean, this is a Peterson's 53, which is a lovely little pipe which I bought not too long ago. And this is a great pipe, but you are spending to get a pipe of this quality, you're spending close to £100 or probably about $100 in the US, I'm not sure. But you're going to get something that's obviously better quality. It's new, so nobody's touched it before. You don't have to worry about cleaning it or anything like that. But yeah, and you'll be able to get exactly what you want, obviously. But I would probably try not to spend too much. Keep it around the 100 mark. Then you're not going to worry if you decide in a few months this isn't what you like doing, or you don't enjoy it, or whatever it is. You can just sell it, and you're not going to probably lose too much money if that happens. When I very first started looking myself, as probably many of you kind of do, is you're going to go onto the biggest shop in the world, you know who I'm talking about, and you're going to look there, and they primarily sell Chinese pipes. In this case, you really got to be careful because they're often made not with briar, they're made with some sort of inferior wood, and they often have a lot of chemicals and things like that. So it may look great in the pictures, but you're going to have a bad experience when you try to light that thing up and smoke it. If you do want to buy a brand new and you want to spend as cheap as you can, then strongly advise that you find an online store like a tobacconist or a pipe shop, or if you've got one close to you, that's even better. But go online and find an actual specialist shop that is reputable and sells new pipes, and look for, if you need something cheap, look for a make like Mr. Brog. Mr. Brog sells really great pipes. I've not actually used one, so this is just from hearsay, from the reviews I've seen about them, but they look fantastic quality pipes for what you pay for them. So you could get a decent Mr. Brog for probably under $50 or £50, whatever the equivalent is. And that's going to give you a really decent smoking experience if you want to buy new and you want to get it as cheap as possible. Mr. Brog, I think, is a good place to go. There's probably other makes as well, but that's just the one I've heard the most about. Something else to consider as well is that when you smoke, you cannot really just smoke a pipe back to back. I mean, you could do that, but you're going to start running into a few issues with heat, because a pipe will, when you smoke it, it will actually heat up. And so you really want to smoke a pipe and then leave it for a day. And so what most pipe smokers do is they have a rotation of pipes. So I would say it's good to get a few pipes, even if it's just maybe one estate pipe, one corncob pipe, so that you can smoke one, leave it a day, then smoke this one the next day, so that you have a couple that you can utilize, rather than just smoking back to back the same pipe, which you're going to run into some heat issues and some moisture issues if you do that. Okay, just quickly then, I'm just going to give you a quick overview, and then I'm going to talk about my recommendation with lighters, because again, this can get quite complicated. So you've got your basic Bic lighter, which is probably the best entry, I'd say. You've got a Zippo lighter, which a lot of people recommend. This has both good and bad points, but I'll get into that. You've got your sort of stubby-nosed, I don't know, it's like a stovetop lighter. These are really good. Yeah, so I'll talk about those quickly. I went down a real rabbit hole with lighters, because it seems like a simple thing, but there's so many options, and it's hard to know until you actually start doing it what you like and what even suits you and what's the best thing for the best situation. A rule of thumb is generally to use always a soft flame lighter, not a, like a torch lighter, which you might use for a cigar or something like that, which has a very aggressive flame. The reason is because you don't really want to burn your bowl, and you don't really want to burn the tobacco either. So a soft flame lighter like this is the way to go. I personally think when you've never smoked before and you just want to get into it, I still actually like the Zippo, or sorry, not Zippo, the Clipper lighter or a Bic lighter, one of the best. It always works, it's cheap, and I don't know, it's just something I just quite like using it. The issue with it a little bit though is that when you're trying to light a pipe, you're having to do it in this angle. So until you get the hang of it, you can burn yourself. So it may not be the best option for you. The reason a lot of people use the long nose one is for that very reason, because it gives you a lot of control. You can go and get it right in the bowl and light it without getting your fingers involved, which is really useful. And again, these are pretty cheap. The only thing I would say with all of these type of lighters is they're not very good outdoors, and a lot of time when you go pipe smoking, you're going to go outdoors and do it because obviously you just want to be, maybe you want to go for a walk and be outside in the forest, or you want to be outside with the ventilation, and that's where something like the Zippo comes in, particularly with the pipe insert. The downside to these is, I mean, people talk about it a lot, but the fuel evaporates out of them quite quickly, so you do have to consider that. I use mine sort of a couple times a week. I just top it up now and again. You have to top it up like once a week really, because it's hard to beat outside. Nothing beats it. If you like this, you can be blowing gale outside and it's still going to work. It's also quite a lovely object. They're nice to hold, they're nice to look at. It feels like more of a, you know, a premium piece of equipment rather than using like, you know, the old clipper lighter, which I'm not really someone that cares too much about the whole aesthetic thing in that way. I'm more of a whatever works, the most utilitarian object that does the job the best is what I generally go for, but it does have its place. So I would say though, when you start, just buy a clipper or a Bic and use that. It works great. Now we're going to get on to tobacco, and this is where things do get quite complicated and you're going to get a lot of different opinions on this. You've got three main tobacco groups which you're going to hear the most about. You're going to have English blends, Virginias and aromatics. Now you aren't going to know what you like at the beginning, and maybe you're a mad lad and you just love smoking aromatics every day, but most people have a variation. They like to smoke maybe English and Virginia, but you're not going to know this. So what I would say is buy 1 tin of each. Now what I did, and what I think works really good, is just buy 3 tins within those groups. So for an English, I think it's hard to go wrong with early morning pipe. My previous video, I did a little review of this. Early morning pipe is probably the best place you could start with in English, because it's nice and cool, it's not too overwhelming, the flavour is not going to like hit you too hard, it's fairly light. So, but it's a really delicious place to start for an English blend. The smell of it is really lovely and it's easy to smoke, so it's hard to go wrong with that. And then this is somewhere where I'm not really knowledgeable, but my first Virginia I smoked was Sherlock Holmes. Now I would put a warning, I preference this with a warning that Sherlock Holmes is very wet. It's a very wet tobacco. So once you open this, before you smoke it, you are going to have to dry it out a little bit. So take a bowl or a plate and put a little bit on that plate, let it dry for half an hour or even an hour, and then smoke it. Don't just try and take it out of the tin and smoke it immediately. You can do that with this, but I would definitely not do that with this, because it will create a lot of moisture in the pipe, and moisture creates heat, and heat is what rips your mouth to pieces. But what I would say with this is it's a fairly simple Virginia. It's not too complex, and I think it's considered a ribbon cut, which is very easy to smoke, because other Virginias, they often come in flake form, which means you have to rub it out and mess around with that. So this is a little bit less, it's not as difficult to manage. You can just put it in your pipe and smoke it like most other tobaccos. Now when it comes to aromatics, this is where it is really going to be about, I can't tell you which one to start with, With these two, I'd say don't think about it, just go with these. So you've got an English, a Virginia, and then you're going to have an aromatic. So with aromatics, it's a bit more complicated because it really depends on your taste. If you're someone that loves sort of like cinnamon, maple syrup, those kind of notes, then I think Autumn Evening by C&D is probably one of the best aromatics you could smoke. It's absolutely delicious. This is probably my favorite. This is so easy to smoke. It doesn't really burn your mouth when you smoke it. But if you like, say, sort of like more apricot-y, fruity, citrusy type of notes, that's quite sweet as well, then Connoisseur's Choice by Peterson is also a great option. The smell of this is just divine. It's hard to beat. So yeah, pick one of those. I wouldn't say go buying too many, because you might find, like me, you're not really a massive fan of this type of tobacco. I, after smoking a fair bit now, really prefer English blends and Virginias, English blends being my favourite of all. But what I would say is pick one category of each. So you might want to pick, say, this, an English, a Virginia, and an aromatic. And that way you're actually going to know what you like from the beginning without spending a fortune on buying all different things like I did when I started. It also gives you a chance, if you just buy one tin of each, and I think this is a good thing to do, is just to try and smoke through one tin and then make your mind up on it, because by the time you finish this, you're going to think differently to when you first start smoking it, because your taste kind of develops and changes and morphs. The more you smoke different things, it's gonna change. So that would be my opinion, or my advice with choosing tobacco. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is the Tamp Tool. I forget the name of it. It might be I don't think it's Rima. I think it has a specific name, so I'll put that somewhere as soon as I remember it. And here are the options that there are to use. You might see the Bic lighter and you might think, oh, why is that in there? Because, well, those that are more astute may see that I've been using this as a Tamp Tool. And I actually really like using a Bic lighter as a Tamp Tool, particularly when you very first start. When you very first get the pipe lit, it works really nice just to get because it's so big, it kind of covers the whole thing. You can just very evenly push it down. So it's kind of a no-brainer. The one issue with it is when you actually get further down into the bowl, because of the shape of them, they sometimes, handicap themselves and only let you use it for so long. But it is a way that you can, if you're in a pinch, and even if you're not in a pinch, I just enjoy using it to tamp. Maybe I'm going to make some people angry, but yeah, I like using it for that. The probably best thing that I've found is actually just this very cheap, these are about £4, little tool. I generally don't use this. I think this is a scoop or maybe to clean the pipe, but I really just use this, and I use this. It works really well and it's very easy to use. It's very light, surprisingly decent quality for £4. I thought it would be like terrible quality, but it actually is pretty good. So that's probably, if you had to choose one, I'd buy one of these because it's cheap, works really good. If you're completely, don't want to spend any money, then you've probably got a nail laying around, provided it's got a big enough head, preferably not a screw because it has sort of an indentation in it, but a nail works pretty good and you don't have to worry about losing it. I still like to go for a walk with a nail because, yeah, if I lose it, I don't really care. And it actually works quite well. A longer one might work better than this, just because when you get near the bottom, you struggle a little bit to get this all the way in there. I mean, it doesn't matter too much, but yeah. I bought one of these as well, but I wouldn't recommend these tools. Not only are they quite heavy, But the shape of the head on this, I find it doesn't work very well. If you can see, it's quite thick as well, unlike this one. And I just find it doesn't really work very good when you're trying to tamp into the pipe. These just seem to work so much better, so much easier to get in. You can sort of use that angle to get in there because of the horseshoe shape, or the L shape I should say. Whereas this, it sort of doesn't really work as well. I find it useless really, this thing. Not really my preference. I do like this though. This you're going to use occasionally when you get too much ash builds up. You just take this and you can move the ash and then knock it out without disturbing all the tobacco, and then maybe pull in any tobacco that's on the outside of the bowl back into the middle. So yeah, there's this. So those are basically the tamp tools. I'd say go for this. If you don't want to spend any money, just get yourself a nail. It does the same thing effectively. This may be going beyond the scope of this little tutorial, but filters are something you might want to consider. A pipe that comes with filters or takes a filter, you get either 6mm filter, so this is the size of the filter. It will either be 6mm or 9mm. All of my pipes at the moment are 6mm pipes. I actually really like these little Savinelli bolsterwood filters, particularly when I smoke Virginia, because yeah, you can put one of these into your pipe. It just goes in there. You have to just do that to get these in. Goes in there, and what that does when you smoke, it's self-explanatory really, but the moisture that you're going to draw up, it sort of gets caught on that absorbent filter and it will absorb into it. You also get other variants like these charcoal ones. I find that these do tend to restrict the airflow a lot. That's why I think a lot of people use 9mm, because it helps with the filtration and airflow, whereas I find these a little bit too restrictive, particularly on a longer pipe. I find these work really great, just to take care of the moisture that you might have building up as you smoke. Some pipes obviously as well, like this Peterson pipe that I have here, they're designed so that the chamber catches some of the moisture. I find that really a filter is the best way to deal with moisture, but you know, everyone has their preference, but I find that for me, anyway, at the moment, these work quite well. Once you've opened your tobacco, this is also why I would recommend not buying too many tins of tobacco when you first start, because once you open this, it's going to immediately start drying out. So depending on where you live and your climate, you've probably got a few months before you have to put this into a mason jar, but eventually this will start to dry out and you don't want to have tobacco that's too dry. So what I did, and what most people do, is just I just had a load of these already, and you just put a label, put your date on it, and yeah, just throw it in a mason jar. You really want one that has got one of these silicone seals so that it's properly sealed, you know, not just a normal jar. You need one that's actually going to completely lock in the air to stop it from drying out. Another little tip, this may be unnecessary if you've got plenty of money, but if you're like a starving artist like I am, then something that works quite well if you've got a rotation of pipes and you can't afford one of those pipe racks, is just to use egg boxes. What you can do is start with the pipe that is closest to being able to use. So for example, this I would have used a few days ago. So they sort of like the pipe that I've been smoking here, there you go. And once this is smoked, then you can put it there, so you can keep track of, you know, where you are in your rotation of pipes. This is only an issue if you've only got a few pipes like I have. If you've got obviously a big collection, it doesn't matter so much, but just wanted to show this little egg box situation which I've got going on, which works really good just to protect your pipes and put them somewhere. So some of the last equipment we're going to talk about is cleaning, and this is often overlooked, but this is quite an important part of the pipe process. You know, smoking it is just the first part of the process. Packing it, smoking it, and then cleaning it is part of the process. So generally, once you smoke the pipe, you probably want to let it sit. If you have to take it apart, you want to let it sit for a little while, at least half an hour, before you take the stem off, because if you take the stem off too early on most pipes, then you're going to have issues with the briar cracking, and you don't want to do that. So check the pipe that you have. This pipe, for example, you don't have to, because it has this collar. It's designed so that you could take this apart before it cools. I generally never do. I generally let my pipes cool down. One thing to consider, the advantages of a straight pipe, is that before it's cooled down, you can get everything out. You can put the pipe cleaner through it, and it's basically ready for your next smoke. It's cleaned. But some things you're going to probably want to think about is pipe cleaner being the most important thing. This is obviously what I've told you already. You're just basically going to push this through the pipe. If you're working with a bent pipe like this, you generally would want to start this end with this thinner piece, and as you push it through, you're going to want to twist it. This will help, because the very sharp piece at the end is going to help move it through without damaging your pipe, and help get it through until you get it there. Once you get it through to the end, then you can just pull it through like that. And you want to do that a few times. Then where you've got more surface area here, you want to probably run it through there a couple of times. Even what I do sometimes, I fold this over like that, put it in, and then turn it like this. Same here. I mean, this is a system pipe, so these you have to do a bit more cleaning because it has a little chamber here, but you're going to want to put that in there, clean it through there. I actually also then take it and I'll put it through into the actual bowl, into like that. So you clean it through there like that. You always want to just try and put it through everywhere that you can. You can use a few of these if you want to. I generally just use one per clean. It does the job. As long as you get everything off, then it's good. And then once you've done that, I generally take the piece here and I blow, and it blows all the ash out, so gets anything that might be left inside it out. Okay, so the other thing that's quite useful to have is just some earbuds. I often use these just to go around inside pieces like that, or even inside areas like this, which it's a little bit easier than trying to use a pipe cleaner. Even in this system pipe, I'll sometimes put it into the chamber and I'll twist it like that, and a lot of stuff will come off doing that, so they work quite good for that. The other thing you might want to consider is a toothbrush, just because as you use your pipe, you're going to get probably some build-up and gunk, so you can just take a little bit of soap and water and clean your clean the end with your toothbrush. Make sure this is all clean. Keep everything clean and sanitary, so that there's no bacteria or anything building up on your pipe, because obviously you want to keep it as clean as you can because you're putting your mouth on this. So yeah, that's something to consider. And then lastly is just to basically use, I have some of these cotton gloves which work pretty good, so you can actually put this on and then wipe inside. You might want to wipe everything down, wipe everything over once you've smoked it. Even now and again when they're getting a bit old, I use kitchen towel and I'll just put it in there, cleaning the bowl a little bit. So yeah, just some few pieces of equipment. Pipe cleaners are very cheap, they come in bags, so use as many as you want. It's worth just getting a load of them so you can keep everything clean as you go. Okay, so just quickly to recap, hopefully now you've got a better idea of pipe. I'm gonna maybe talk a little bit more about the pipe when we get into smoking. I'm gonna talk a little bit about tobacco and smoking it, but hopefully you got an idea of basically what you need. This is really what you need. These are the most essential things you're going to need. There's other things which are nice to have. Obviously, having an ashtray works pretty good. Something I do use as an ashtray, which is just a little point. It's a old candle thing or something with a lid, so you can put your ash and your pipe cleaners and stuff in it, and then just throw those out, and it stops the smell and the ash going everywhere. If you've got something with a lid, it works quite well. The other thing which you might want to consider, which I use, is just some sort of tray which you can just put everything into, so that when you smoke you can have your pipe cleaners, your pipe, everything can just go into this tray, and you don't have to. I normally have it something like this, and it all just, you can pick this up, take it in the garden, take it wherever you like to smoke, and you've got it all in one place. You don't have to keep moving about and, you know, trying to find things that you need. So something that's just quality of life, just makes it a bit easier if you've got something where you can just keep it all in one place. Now we're going to get into the fun part, and that's actually smoking. But before we start smoking, we got to pack it. Now, this is a very contentious topic that everyone has their own opinion and way of doing it. The nice thing about the pipe smoking community is that people are not really generally rigid in, oh, this is the way you have to do it. Everyone has a different way of doing it. You're going to find a way that works for you, and you're only going to learn this by experimenting, trying, and working out how works best. Something to consider when packing a pipe, let me just grab my corn cob, is the chamber size. So you're going to hear people talk about packing things in like 3 layers and things like that. Well, good luck packing 3 layers in a corn cob. It's quite tricky to do that. And I was trying to do that. I was thinking, how can people fit 3 layers in something like this? And it's because they probably can't. It's a corn cob, so it doesn't hold very much, this particular one. A pipe like this, for example, is going to fit a lot more. So you could probably use the 3-layer method, where you put 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers. But yeah, you have to consider what pipe you're actually packing, or I prefer to say loading, because like I said before, packing implies that you're going to actually be packing it in, where you don't really want to do that. You're going to find it's much easier to smoke if you pack it lightly. So I'm going to change the camera angle, and I'm going to try and show you, again, I'm not an expert, but this is what I found works for me, and I've tried all the different methods, and this, for me, I seem to get the best results and the best smoke from. So I'll show you that now. When I first started trying to do this, I was getting a little bit stressed out with all the different ideas and techniques. And then I watched this old boy talk about how he packs his pipe and his pipe smoking. And he just said, I just put the tobacco in the hole. And something just, it seems silly, but it clicked, because I'd been watching all these like advanced techniques and everything, and it was becoming like so overwhelming that it was sort of missing the point of what I think is important about packing the pipe. And that's about getting the tobacco in the hole and getting it to a point that it's not too packed in there and also not too loose. So to do this, there's a couple of ways, and depending on what mood I'm in, dictates what I do. Sometimes, if I've sort of not got much left in the jar, I'll literally put my pipe in there and I'll just roll it round, and I'll get tobacco into the bowl. You see that? Then what you can do while it's there, you can just gently push it in. The other thing that's worth mentioning is maybe you do not want to spend the whole day smoking your pipe. So something I was doing at first, so I felt like I had to fill my pipe up to the very top. You don't. If you just want to spend 20 minutes smoking, you might want to just pack it down in here. See that? And that might be enough for you. You might only want to do a short smoke. You don't need to buy a tiny pipe. You could just pack it like this. Generally though, I would pack it a bit more in here. So I'd get a little bit more there. And I'm just pushing it in. There's nothing difficult, complicated. Once it's in there like this, it's fairly easy just to take your thumb. You don't want to push it in hard. You're just going to push it till you feel a tiny bit of resistance, and that's it. All you're trying to do is create a small amount of resistance so that the air isn't just going through it too much, but also not packing it in so tight that you're sort of blocking the air and the smoke from able to move around in the chamber. It's really not as complicated as a lot of people sort of make it, and maybe the way I'm doing it is considered incorrect. I'm sure I'm going to have people tell me if it is, but this works for me really well, and of all the ways that I've done, this smokes really good like this. I mean, I don't have any problem generally keeping it lit unless the tobacco is wet, and yeah, I have a really good smoke like this. So that's just my technique. And if I wasn't using the bowl, if I wasn't using, let me just get a, if I wasn't using the jar like I did, just quickly as well, if you do feel like you've done it wrong, just take your tamp tool with the little thing and just get it out. It doesn't matter. You can do it again. You know, you don't have to get it right, perfect every single time. But this is a bit difficult because my jar's getting near the bottom, but you can just take it here, look. Just gently feed it in. One little point which I think is quite important when you first start is this very first piece that you put in, the very first bit. Now, you're going to want to leave that, but you do have to push it in there a bit because you need that to get down into the bottom of the bowl. But at the same time, you don't want to push this in and compact it so it's very tight in the bottom there. You want to try and get that so that it's in the bowl but not really like stamping it in. You just push it in, feeding it in from all sides. I would say always err on loading it. I keep saying packing. I'm trying not to say that because I just don't think for a beginner it's a helpful term. Packing, you sort of, once it's kind of full, see, it's full there. Now all you need to do is take your thumb and just, without sort of pushing it in hard, just use the pipe, the rim as a gauge, just go around it, sort of create a little bit of tension. You'll feel it pushing back, and there. It's not that difficult. If you pack it wrong, doesn't matter, just do it again. You know, every time you pack, you're going to learn something, and it's a process. The more that you do this, I'm still at the beginning of my journey, but I feel like I can consistently pack it and get a good smoke now. And that's after just a couple of months. So, you know, it's not that difficult, I think, if you just apply a few principles and common sense. Something I just want to quickly point out as well is if you're packing a much smaller pipe like this, in some ways it's a bit more difficult. You have got to be a bit more careful when you're putting it in. The very first part is to maybe put less in so that you can make sure you're getting that all the way all the way into the bottom of the bowl. See, because what I was doing at first, I was pushing it in, but the tobacco was sort of stopping here, and then I was pushing it, and then you actually got a gap at the bottom, but it's still quite tight by the time you pushed it in here, but you created a sort of a little air gap. So you don't really want to do that. You want to try and get that first bit in. So you put just a small amount in, get it in there, and then you can take the rest of it and get it in. And again, rather pack it looser than too tight. And you're just trying to feel the resistance. There's a certain amount of resistance that you're going to feel. You'll get a feel for it. When you feel it sort of pushing back a certain amount, then yeah, it's done. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more experienced people on here that will be able to share their opinions and ideas on packing, but this is what I found works for me. I generally try not to pack the pipe so it's like overflowing, because if you've got a more expensive pipe, you don't want to burn this. And also when you light this, as you're going to see in a moment, the tobacco is actually going to expand, so you need to leave a little bit of room for that to happen, otherwise it's going to sort of coming out over the top. So we're going to do that now. If you got to this point here, congratulations, you can relax. This is the point where you have to just try and chill out. If it doesn't go exactly the way that you thought it would, you know, if something goes wrong, doesn't matter. You know, every time you try, if it doesn't work the first time, maybe you pack it too tight, maybe you don't pack it tight enough, maybe you haven't dried out your tobacco enough, whatever the case may be, it's okay. The next time you'll get it and it will be good. And the more that you just keep trying, it just becomes quite easy in the end, not too difficult. I think the problem is that we often overcomplicate everything, and when you hear the old boys talk about it and you see them do it, they don't worry too much, they just do it. If it goes wrong, that, you know, it's not serious. This is fun at the end of the day. It's not like trying to pass your driving test or something. If you do it wrong, it's okay, just do it again the next time and you'll get better. It's a process. So here we got the pipe, it's packed. Now this is probably one of the most important points, the lighting the first part, where it's definitely where I went wrong. First of all, I was trying to light the whole thing up as if it was a bonfire, to get the whole thing cooking, you know, as if I was trying to start a barbecue or something, and that's really not what you want to do. This is a point where you really want to just slow down and chill out. I often take like 15 minutes sometimes to light my pipe. I really sort of enjoy this part, and I'm not in a rush to get it flaming and going. I like to sort of do it slowly, because you often get some really lovely flavors in the very first parts of when you're lighting it. So yeah, it's a process. The thing as well is you're going to light it at first, so you do what's called your charring light. That first light that you do, it's almost like just the first part, it's like the fake light. You're just basically trying to get a little bit of heat into the tobacco. You're trying to get the moisture just out of the tobacco a little bit, so that by the time you tamped it and you do your second one, it's going to go. So I'll show you, rather than trying to explain it, I'll just do it and then you can see. So I'm just going to use this so that you can see it's perfectly doable. I'm obviously not going to take 15 minutes to do it today, because, you know, I don't want the video to go on forever. But you just keep doing it slowly, and, you know, you'll basically, as you light it, it's a bit hard to do it and talk, but you're sucking in, so you're sucking that flame down into the tobacco, and you're just very gradually moving the flame around, not like really close to it, but just a little bit of distance. And see, this is where you can use your tamp tool or your Bic lighter, or your clipper in this case. Now, I'm not going to rush this. People say they do it in 2 goes. I don't. I take sometimes like 4, 5, 6 lights. Because that's what I found works for me. It's also worth bearing in mind, as you're doing this, you're trying to actually get all of it charred, not just one section. That's something I kept doing wrong as well. I thought, oh, once it's going, it's going, so that's all that matters. It's not. You really want to try and light all of the surface that you can see. So if you see like a lot of brown tobacco on one side, try and light that. Try and get some fire into that area. And as you do it, you just tamp it down. Not too hard, just so you're just compacting those bits that come up. What I do now, I'd probably put this aside. I'd drink my coffee, relax a little bit. I'd leave it a little bit because while that's happening, the sort of moisture and everything in the tobacco is drying out slightly. So it's kind of like when hay has been drying in the sun. Then when you come to light it, that final time it's just going to go, and you're not going to be fighting it. But you know, we need to get this video done. So and again, it's not a race. If it goes out, if it doesn't immediately light, it's fine. Take your time. It's part of the process. You should just relax and enjoy it. If you like lighting it much quicker, you hate the idea of spending too long doing it, that's fine too. This is just how I do it. So there's not a right or a wrong way. And rather than trying to really suck it in, just keep lighting it. And then, as you're smoking, sip the smoke. You don't need to suck it in, trying to keep this going. If this goes out, you're doing it correctly. If you manage to keep your pipe lit throughout the whole thing, you're more than likely doing it too fast. You're sucking the air too much. So you want to find a cadence, and at some point when it goes out, because it will, that's good. Then you just relight it. It's part of the process. Something you really want to avoid, if you can, is allowing the bowl, the pipe, to get too hot. If when you're touching it, you're feeling like this is getting really hot, heat is your enemy in pipe smoking. You want to put the pipe down, let it cool down, let it get so it's not hot to touch, and then start again. If you're finding that it's boiling hot, that's not good, because one, you're going to get a very harsh, bitter taste. You're going to get an ashy taste because you're basically going to destroy any flavors within the tobacco if it's too hot. And two, you risk damaging your pipe, which you obviously don't want to do. 3, you can actually burn your mouth as well if you're creating, a furnace in the end of your pipe. So you really just want to take this slow. It's not a process that you need to sort of like keep sucking on it constantly to get it to stay alight. Yeah. And also, I should also point out, you really would like a drink whenever you smoke. I haven't got one here because I forgot to make one, but yeah, if you have a drink, like you know, there's so many drinks, you really have to work out what you like with different tobaccos. Something to mention as well is as you're smoking it, you're going to get ash build up, and what that's going to do is basically going to create a pocket where the fire below that ash has created a little chamber. And basically what you're going to want to do at a certain point, because you're going to find it hard to keep it lit, it's going to feel like nothing, you know, nothing is taking. Every time you light it, it's not going to go. So just take your, I'll do it the proper way so that you can see. I would probably use my lighter here, but I'm just going to do it the way that you should do it. So you take your, sorry, you can't see that. You can take your tamp tool and just gently, you're not trying to like crush it down. You're just trying to, you know, push it in there so that that ash, that crust of ash gets pushed down onto the tobacco below where the fire is. And now when you light this, it's suddenly going to go, and you're going to have a delicious flavour of the tobacco as the fire meets the fresh tobacco. I think that's it. I've tried to cover as much as I can. I'm sorry if I've missed anything. I know that I'm going to probably annoy some people with my opinions because maybe I'm doing it differently to them. That's fine. This is just how I do it. I'm not saying it's the right way or the wrong way. This is just what I've found works for me, and I just wanted to share this in one place so that if you are trying to start doing this, it's not so overwhelming. You can kind of have an idea in one place of how to do it without it being too confusing. Yeah, so hopefully that helped. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you are a more experienced pipe smoker, please let me know what I'm doing wrong, what I should have mentioned, what I should have included. Or if you can help anyone in the comments that maybe is a new pipe smoker, also please help them, comment to them, and maybe guide people that maybe need help, because it is quite overwhelming when you first start. So, you know, this is hopefully a place where we can all learn, and it's not intimidating, and it doesn't feel like someone's going to like bite your head off if you do it wrong or something. So that's sort of like an environment I hope that we can create in the chat. So thanks ever so much, everyone. Bye for now.